Have you ever rehearsed a conversation in your head 100 times, knowing exactly what you needed to say, exactly what needed to change, and watched yourself, in the actual moment, swallow it again? We've all felt misunderstood in a relationship. We've all stayed silent on something we needed because the cost of speaking felt higher than the cost of carrying it. And we've all watched the resentment compound when we did. That's why this channel exists. At the Relationship Blueprint, we believe boundaries are not personality. They are a skill with a specific structure built on words that can be learned, practiced, and used in the exact moment you need them. Today, we're walking through 8 word-for-word boundary scripts for tone, dismissal, recurring patterns, family interference, and more. All of them built on a 3-part framework that turns boundaries into invitations rather than ultimatums. And script number 6 in particular is the hardest one to deliver and the one almost no one teaches you. I'll get to it at minute 9. By the end of this video, you'll have 8 specific boundaries ready to deliver, calmly, clearly, without guilt. And you'll have the language to start the next one before it builds another year of unsaid weight, starting today. Welcome back to the Relationship Blueprint. Subscribe if you're new. New video every week. Now, let's talk about the hardest sentences in any relationship. The ones you've been needing to say but haven't. One reframe before we get to the scripts, because if this lands, every word that follows lands harder. Most people misunderstand what a boundary actually is. They confuse it with a wall, a punishment, or an ultimatum. They think setting a boundary means delivering a verdict, drawing a line in the sand, and daring someone to cross it. So they avoid setting boundaries because they don't want to be cruel, controlling, or cold. And they end up carrying everything they should have said for years. A boundary is not a wall. A wall is closed. A boundary is a door, one that you control. It tells the person you love what kind of treatment you can stay open to, and what kind of treatment will require you to close the door for a while. It is an invitation to keep the relationship safe enough that you can stay fully in it. Boundaries are not punishments. They are not ultimatums. They are not requests for the other person to change who they are. They are clear, specific descriptions of what you need in order to be present, available, and emotionally accessible to the person you are speaking to. Delivered well, they protect the relationship. They do not threaten it. A boundary is not a request that someone change their behavior. It is a clear statement about what you will do to take care of yourself when a behavior happens. The locus of control stays with you, which is why boundaries work even when the other person doesn't agree with them. Every boundary in this video uses the same 3-part structure. Once you know it, you can construct boundaries for situations I don't even cover today. The structure is: Part 1. Observation. A neutral, specific description of what happens. Not an accusation, not a generalization, not you always or you never, just the observable behavior. Part 2. Need a clear statement of what you need, phrased as your need, not their failing. You are not asking them to be different. You are telling them what you require to stay open. Part 3. Choice. The action you will take, not as a threat, but as information. This is the part most people skip, which is why their boundaries don't hold. You are telling the person what your part of the response is. You control your part. They control theirs. Observation, need, choice. Every script in this video uses that structure. Watch for it as we go. Boundary script 1. When your partner uses a tone you can't be around, the foundational boundary. The situation. Your partner speaks to you in a way, a tone, an edge, a sharpness that you do not want to be on the receiving end of. They may not even realize they're doing it, but it's eroding something between you. What most people say, "Stop talking to me like that." Here are the 8 words to use. When you talk to me that way, I can't hear you. Why it works. The wrong version is a command. It tells them what to do, and people resist being commanded, especially during conflict. The right version is a description. It describes what happens to you in response to a specific behavior, and it tells them the natural consequence. Communication breaks down. You're not threatening them. You're telling them the truth about the system you're both inside. Then, and this is the important part, follow it with the choice. I'm going to step away for a few minutes. When we can speak to each other differently, I'll come back. That's not a punishment. That's a clean description of what you'll do to take care of yourself. The relationship can continue, just not in this particular conversation, in this particular tone. Boundary script 2. When your concerns keep getting dismissed, the boundary for being heard. The situation. You bring something up that matters to you, and it gets minimized, deflected, or made about your partner. You leave the conversation feeling smaller than you went into it. It happens repeatedly, and you've stopped bringing things up. What most people say, "You never listen to me. You always make it about you." Here are the 8 words to use. This matters to me. I need to feel heard, not fixed. Why it works. The wrong version uses always and never, words that immediately activate defensiveness. The right version names what you need and distinguishes it from what they're probably trying to do: fix, solve, defend. It gives your partner specific instruction on how to be useful. Just listen. Don't react. Don't problem solve. Just receive what I'm saying. Most people don't want to be ignored. They genuinely think they're helping. Telling them what helping actually looks like, being heard, not fixed, turns a complaint into a request that's possible to fulfill. Boundary script 3. When the same pattern keeps repeating, the boundary for recurring issues. The situation. You've had this conversation before, maybe many times. Each time your partner agrees, things shift briefly, and then the pattern returns. You're tired of repeating yourself. You're tired of feeling like the responsibility for change keeps landing on you. What most people say, "How many times do I have to tell you this?" Here are the 8 words to use. We've had this conversation before. I need it to change. Why it works. The wrong version is a rhetorical attack. The right version names the pattern directly and states what you need without ambiguity. The crucial addition is the third part of the framework, the choice. You need to add what you will do if it doesn't change, not as a threat, as clarity. Add this. If this pattern continues, I'm going to need to spend some time thinking about whether the relationship can work the way it's currently set up. That sentence is not an ultimatum. It is honest information. You are not threatening to leave. You are telling them that something inside you is reaching its capacity, and they deserve to know that before it does. Boundary script 4. When you need space without drama, the boundary for emotional regulation. The situation. You need to step away from a conflict, a conversation, or even a day to regulate yourself. But every time you try, it gets read as withdrawal, abandonment, or punishment. You can't take the space you need without setting off a different fire. What most people say, "Just leave me alone. I can't deal with you right now." Here are the 8 words to use. I need an hour to myself. I'm coming back. Why it works. The wrong version sounds like rejection and feels like rejection to anxious leaning partners. The right version is a request for time with a clear endpoint and a clear commitment to return. The phrase "I'm coming back" does most of the work. It reframes the space from abandonment to regulation. You're not leaving the relationship. You're protecting your capacity to be present in it. If your partner has an anxious attachment style, add one more sentence. This isn't about you. I just need to regulate. I love you and I'm coming back. That sentence, said calmly, said sincerely, can diffuse 80% of the anxiety that would otherwise spiral while you're taking your space. Boundary script 5. When you need to say no without justifying, the boundary that requires no defense. The situation. Your partner asks for something, suggests something, expects something. You don't want to do it. You feel pressure to say yes, or if you say no, to produce a list of reasons that justifies your no enough that it gets accepted. You're tired of justifying. What most people say, "Sorry, I can't," because long list of reasons. Here are the 8 words to use. That's not going to work for me. What would? Why it works. The wrong version sets a precedent that your no is only valid if you can defend it. The right version delivers a clean refusal, then opens a collaborative door. You're not refusing the relationship. You're refusing this particular request and inviting them to participate in finding something that works for both of you. No is a complete sentence. You do not owe your partner a justification for what does not work for you. The reasons are yours. What your partner gets is the answer. Healthy partners respect this. Unhealthy ones reveal themselves by refusing to. Boundary script 6. When family or in-laws cross a line, the boundary nobody teaches. The situation. Your partner's family, or your own, says or does something inappropriate, intrusive, or harmful. The behavior repeats. Your partner is either complicit, dismissive, or unwilling to address it. You've been carrying it. You can't anymore. What most people say, "Your mother is impossible. I'm not going to her house anymore." Here are the 8 words to use. I love your family. I cannot accept this behavior. Why it works. Family boundaries are the hardest because they sit at the intersection of 2 loyalties. Your partner's loyalty to their family and their loyalty to you. The wrong version forces them to pick sides and makes the issue personal. The right version separates the people from the behavior. You can love the family and name the specific thing that has to change. Those are not contradictions. Then, and this is the part most people get wrong, you make it clear what your part of the response is. Not theirs. Yours. If this behavior continues, I'm going to step out of the room when it happens, or leave the event when it happens. I'm not asking you to make them stop. I'm telling you what I'll do when they don't. Notice what just happened. You didn't ask your partner to change their family. You didn't issue an ultimatum about whether they have to choose between you and them. You named a specific behavior, named what you need, and described what you will do. The locus of control stayed with you. Your partner can decide what they want to do with the information. Their family can decide what they want to do with the information. You've made your boundary clear without requiring anyone else to do anything to make it real. Family boundaries are not about getting other people to change. They are about deciding what you will do in response to behavior that you cannot continue absorbing. The clarity of your response is what makes the boundary hold, not the family's cooperation with it. Boundary script 7. When technology is eroding connection, the boundary for phones and presence. The situation. Your partner is technically there, but during dinner, during conversations, during evenings together, their attention is somewhere else. The phone, the messages, the constant low-grade scrolling. You feel quietly invisible inside your own relationship. What most people say, "You're always on your phone. You never pay attention to me." Here are the 8 words to use. I miss you. Can we be present together for an hour? Why it works. The wrong version is an accusation that triggers defensiveness. The right version is something rarer in adult relationships, an invitation. I miss you is the most disarming sentence in this entire video. It doesn't accuse, it doesn't complain, it simply names a longing, which is impossible to argue with. Then make it specific. Can we put our phones in another room and have an hour where it's just us? Specific, time-bounded, easy to say yes to. Don't ask for forever. Don't ask for a behavior change in general. Ask for 1 hour, 1 night, this week, then build from there. Boundary script 8. When a boundary has already been crossed, the hardest boundary, naming what already happened. The situation. Something happened. A line was crossed, recently or a long time ago, and it has never been properly named between you. You've carried it, you've absorbed it, and you felt the cost of never naming it. You don't want to relive the moment. You want to name what it cost you, so you can finally put it down. What most people say, "I just want to move past this. I don't want to talk about it anymore." Here are the 8 words to use. I need to name what happened, not to relitigate it. Why it works. The wrong version pretends to be over something that isn't actually over. And the unnamed thing continues to weight the relationship. The right version distinguishes between naming and relitigating. You are not asking for an apology. You are not reopening the conversation. You are telling your partner that this happened and that you needed it acknowledged in a way that it hasn't been. Then add this. When you do not acknowledge what happened, I cannot fully be present in this relationship. I need you to hear what it cost me. I do not need you to fix it. I need you to know it. That distinction between acknowledgement and resolution is what allows old wounds to finally rest. They don't need to be solved. They need to be witnessed. Some boundaries are not about preventing future harm. They are about finally allowing yourself to put down what has been carried in silence for too long. The naming is the resolution. There is nothing else required. So, those are the 8 word-for-word scripts, 8 situations, built on the same 3-part framework. You have them. You can use them. But before we close, the question I get asked most about boundaries needs an honest answer. What about the guilt? Here's what I've learned. The guilt you feel when you set a boundary is usually not a sign that the boundary is wrong. It's a sign that the boundary is new. Guilt is what shows up when you do something your nervous system isn't yet familiar with. And if you've spent years being the person who absorbs, accommodates, and apologizes, the first boundary you set is going to feel like you're being cruel. You're not. You're being clear. The feeling will recalibrate. What you're actually feeling underneath the guilt is grief. Grief that you waited this long. Grief for all the times you didn't set the boundary. Grief for the relationships that might have been different if you'd known these words years ago. That grief is appropriate. Don't avoid it by silencing yourself again. Guilt after a boundary is not evidence that the boundary was wrong. It is evidence that the boundary is new. Set the boundary anyway. The guilt will pass. The damage of not setting it will not. Now, once you've set the boundaries, said the apologies, broken the patterns, there's still one thing that determines whether the relationship actually lasts. And it's the thing nobody talks about, because everyone thinks they already understand it. I'm talking about love languages. But not the way you've heard them explained before. Most couples speak the wrong one for their entire relationship. And one of the 5 is so commonly misunderstood that it's the source of more breakups than the other 4 combined. I cover all 5 in our next video. The way you've been thinking about this is probably wrong. Watch it now. Subscribe to the Relationship Blueprint. New video every week. Boundaries are how you keep yourself in the relationship. Love languages are how you keep the relationship alive. You need both. I'll see you in the next one.